Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Purdy Insurance. Visit Purdy Insurance on Market Street in Sunbury or visit online at purdyinsurance.com. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is the Steve Jones Show on a Super Bowl Monday. News Radio 1070 WKOK. Matt Catrillo here with you. Steve will soon be there from the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, lots of pre-owned inventory. An excellent service department and sales staff, and the home of the repeat customer. That's all of Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. And every Monday show brought to you by our good friends at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury, or head to purdyinsurance.com. Home, auto, life, business, all your insurance matters, they've got you covered. The pros in insurance matters, and that's all at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury, or head to purdyinsurance.com. Terrific Super Bowl last night as the Rams win it 23-20 over the Bengals in a game that saw a little bit of everything. This is one of the better Super Bowls I think that have been played, and I would put it up there as one of the best ever played. With everything that happened, where you had some trick plays, you had some freak plays, you had some drama with some injuries, you had some controversial calls and non-calls, which we'll get into. Of course, it comes down to the final couple minutes. So it was about everything that you would want in the Super Bowl yesterday, and the Rams pull it off in the end. I do want to start, though, with the Rams, and they kind of went against the grain and kind of building through free agency instead of building through the draft, and it paid off for them, as now they get that Super Bowl. And Matthew Stafford it was not great by any means yesterday. Neither quarterback was great, but Matthew Stafford probably had the worse game statistically than Joe Burrow. Obviously, he comes up in the clutch late with that 15-play drive to win the game. But Cooper Kupp, man, Steve called it. He was Steve's MVP, and he definitely deserved it. I mean, you could have gone either way between him or Aaron Donald because of the two plays he made at the end, but I probably would have, if I had to choose between the two, I probably would have gone with Cooper Kupp myself. I mean, a 2-touchdown game, made numerous other big catches besides the go-ahead touchdown with over a minute to go. There's that. So congrats to the Rams. I will say this, too. Both head coaches, I don't think, had great games yesterday, by any means. And when you go to Sean McVay, constantly still trying to run the football when clearly it hasn't been working all game, it kept setting his offense back. I just didn't really get that whole approach. And, of course, now you'll still be hearing the nauseating things, oh, he's such a creative genius, this and that. I don't think he had that great a game plan, to be honest with you. But credit to him, he gets the dub, he gets his first ring. And when it comes to Zac Taylor with the Bengals, first of all, I didn't get the 4th down play call at the end of the game. You know your quarterback is getting killed. I mean, you should have known about that coming into the game, let alone knowing that he's already been sacked 7 times and pressured numerous times other than that. and you got a guy in Joe Mixon was having a pretty good game, and you don't at least give him a shot or do a quarterback sneak on 4th and half a yard? Come on now. It just is not smart. And I don't know. And a lot of those swing passes to the running backs, the Rams had those sniffed out too. I just didn't get some of the, and not only that too, I just thought overall they didn't try enough down the field. I mean, when it worked, it worked. When they did it, it worked. Because Jalen Ramsey did not have a great game yesterday, as I predicted. Gave up 2 big pass plays. One to Jamar Chase in the first half. One to Higgins on the play to begin the third quarter. So I did not think those were good performances by both head coaches yesterday. Now we get to the officiating. It was fine through the first 3.5 quarters. Let him play. Okay, that's fine. It's pretty much how you should officiate championship games. But you missed the face mask on the play to begin the third quarter. Now, granted, I think Jalen Ramsey was still falling down as he's getting his face mask grabbed. But nonetheless, when you are trying to lay back on calling, you still got to call the obvious stuff, and that was an obvious one there. And obviously that was a big play at the time. So that's a big miss there by Ron Torbert and the officials. But then I think the more egregious one is at the end of the game. 3rd and goal, game on the line. And that's the pass interference call? Or the holding call, rather? I mean, you got to be kidding me. You can't be calling the ticky-tack stuff. Especially that late in the game, with the game on the line. Let them play. You were doing fine. I just didn't get that. It's like, decide. As Steve always says, don't call what you don't see. So that I found a little frustrating at the end with the flags. Now the second one was a hold. All right, I'll give him that one. And I don't want to hear either, though, that call cost the Bengals the game. Sure, it's a big call, and it goes against the Bengals, but the Bengals had the chance, Steve, to put the hammer down on the Rams by getting a touchdown following the interception after the big play to begin the third quarter, and they didn't do that. That's where I thought the game turned back in the Rams' favor, and it played out for them in the end. But terrific game, though.
Good game. Let's see. So let's just, okay. As you know, I don't look at the end of the game all the time. You know, I eventually get to the end of the game, but to me, there's a whole game, and that's, you know, maybe it's because of what I do for a living. I look at whole games. Okay. You know, so I want to go back to the second series of the game. Second series. Once again, what reared its ugly head and ended up eventually costing a team. Let's find out how much you're paying attention to the game.
Trying to think. Second series of the game. So, Bengals had the ball.
So far, so good.
I mean, I would probably go with the offensive line.
No, they went forward on 4th down at their own 48-yard line.
Yeah, because that led to the first touchdown. Oh, yeah, that's a good call. I didn't hate the call at the time, but obviously it came back to bite him a little bit.
I did. It is early in the game. You are still in the probing stage of the game as to what works, what doesn't work. Okay? It's okay to punt there. Right? I know what analytics says, but you know, I'm against an explosive offense that, by the way, to my team's credit, forced a 3-and-out to start the game, right? And so I'm feeling pretty good about that part of it. I would like to play at that point a little field position early in the game, kind of save that fourth down thought process for later, a little bit later, and they didn't do it. And again, not only didn't make it, but it's a bad play call. Like, what the heck was that? Like, that was worth going for? I remember they lined up to go for it. I'm thinking, don't go for it here. Punt the ball away, and just you're still in the probing stage of the game. It's the second series. And instead, you gave that offense 48 yards to work with. Really? Hey, so there's 7. And by the way, Odell Beckham Jr., until he got, I felt awful about his injury. Until he got hurt, he was playing a great game, including the touchdown catch. So there's 7. Okay, so far so good. Then, next part is, it's 13-3. Hecker just flat out drops the ball in the extra point. Unforced error. As you know, Jack and I, when something like that happens, and let's go back to the Wisconsin game when Stout missed the extra point. How often did you hear us say that was hanging over the game? All the time. Because now the dynamics of the scoring changed. NBC doesn't mention it until 3 minutes to go? Really? It's sitting there the whole game. So instead of being down 14-10 at halftime, it's 13-10. You're down a field goal. Then that touchdown pass, and let's face it, Ramsey, who did not have a good game. Ramsey didn't have a good game at all. But on that play, he got his face mask. It spun him around like a top. And now it's 17-14. Now it's 17-13. Now instead of being down a field goal, you're down 4. Now as the game progresses, Donald finally makes his first important play of the game, and it's a really big play. The Bengals are driving. They're on the doorstep. They've got it 3rd down, trying to score a touchdown, and Donald makes his first big play of the game. And that is the sack, which then it ends up being a 4-point play in the game. Instead of getting a touchdown and an extra point, the Bengals have to settle for a field goal. But now it's 20-13. Extra point is still hanging there. Okay. Rams finally get a little bit going. They get a field goal, but now it's 20-16. What's still hanging over the game? The extra point. So instead of being down 3 where the door is open to force overtime, the Rams, when they start their 15-play drive, need a touchdown. Now, that's the point where NBC recognizes that the extra point was missed. It hangs over the whole game, just like that 2-point conversion the Patriots on that windy night in Orchard Park got against the Bills when you couldn't. The wind was so awful that night that you couldn't do anything. That 2-point conversion, as we pointed out, hung over that game. It was 8-7. It was 11-10. Now it's 14-10, and because of the 2-point conversion, the Bills needed a touchdown at the end. Right? Same scenario. You got to stick with the game. And then at the end, it's 3rd down and 1. Okay. And who's the best running back in the field for both teams?
Oh, it's Joe Mixon.
3rd down and 1. Final drive. Where's Joe Mixon?
Yeah, didn't get that. I mentioned that before you jumped on.
He's on the sideline.
Yep.
They give the ball to Samaje Perine, And then, of course, it's the Aaron Donald fest. Oh. Donald makes a terrific play in that play. But guess what? I'm watching the play. I'm thinking, who's the other guy that's in there? I could see his arms around him. Finally, when we went to the overhead, for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, recognized on any broadcast medium, Greg Gaines made a great play. And Collinsworth, because he's not a PFF guy, didn't get mentioned for doing it. I'm telling you, there's the agenda here. I can't stomach it. Donald made a great play, but guess what? A big reason he made the play is Greg Gaines got there first, and he started the tackle, and Donald did a great job of then getting in there, reaching around and holding him back. I'm not taking away Donald's play, but Gaines, I kept thinking, watching the replay, and they're showing underneath, I said, whose arms are those? I think somebody else made that. Who made that play? I couldn't wait for the replay. And of course, they kept showing it from the side, and I still couldn't see the other guy. And then finally, they did the overhead. I'm like, Greg Gaines, son of a gun. Come on. You got to give credit all. I realize he's your guy. I got it. Right? And then Donald makes a phenomenal play at the end. There's no getting around it. I already gave him credit for a 4-point sack. And I gave him credit on that play, and also credit on the 3rd down and 1 play. But Gaines also, no Gaines, I think he might make it. But you don't give the ball to P. Ryan there. You got Joe Mixon. You give him the ball. You're not going out with your best players. It was ridiculous. I'm just saying.
I totally agree.
Well, you better. I mean, you had no choice. You're financially obligated to agree.
I mean, just not only that, too, but that's also common sense. You knew coming into the game you're going to have some disadvantages, offensive line versus their defensive line. Okay. Then he just sacked 7 times prior to that play with the game on the line. They still throw the ball with the game on the line.
Yeah, but I would have thrown the ball there. On the 4th down play?
Yes.
I'd have thrown the ball.
I would. You either give you either give the ball to Mixon or you run a quarterback sneak on that 4th down play. Do not throw the ball.
I don't know what the status of Burrow's knee is at that point. Okay, so I wouldn't get too quick on whether I can run a quarterback sneak with Burrow or not. I don't know what the status of his knee is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there was that concern too. But if he was good enough to, I don't know. I feel like with the game on the line, I think you got to try it anyway, one or the other. I just don't like passing the ball in that situation.
No,
period.
I do. I have no problem with that. But I run Mixon on 3rd down. Not only run Mixon on 3rd down, they only did it twice in the game. I'd have put the extra offensive lineman out there and run the Patriots play. Every time, the Bengals did it twice where they ran the Patriots offensive line formation and got 9 yards or better on each play. Thinking to myself, why aren't they running that play? Because the Bengals twice did it. They put the extra offensive lineman in like the Patriots did against the Rams in the Super Bowl 4 years ago, and each time it not only worked, it really worked. Instead, they got the backup tailback in, and they're just running 5 offensive linemen. Like, okay. See what I'm talking about? It kind of had a brain freeze. And imagine Chris Collins was total shock. I mean, he's probably still in shock at the airport now that Aaron Donald wasn't the MVP.
You know, I do have to mention, I thought of you a lot while I was watching the pregame show, Steve, but particularly when one of the opening segments of the show in the first hour, you have, I think it was Jack Collinsworth and Rodney Harrison starting their shot in front of Aaron Donald's locker. And I just thought of you and the Friday show in our prop bet that we had.
I told you it was going to be everything. See, TV is a show. All right? TV is a show. I was talking to my class about this today. It's a producer-director medium, And that's why, for example, Penn State plays at 8:30 on a Saturday night, and why they're going to play at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, because they have to fit it into TV time slots. Okay, I got it. And they treat it like a show. So in the show, they have stars. Well, the stars of the show were Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, and the star of all stars was Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald made two of the single biggest plays of the game. There's no getting around it, right? No getting around it. The stars make the big plays at the big moments, and Aaron Donald did. But let's face it, for the first 2.5 quarters, what did he do? Yet how many times was he featured? I'm like going, I'm sick of watching a guy do nothing. I'm just sitting there going, great. It's like all the other games I watch. He's doing nothing again. Now look at this. Look at what? I know football. He's not doing anything. I can figure it out. He's doing 0. Nick Scott, Grant Haley, you got your Super Bowl rings. And happy birthday, Sue Paterno.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business. Boat, RV, whatever it may be. They're the best in the insurance business without question. Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. And we're in the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15. Hummel's Wharf online at sunburymotors.com. One quick note on the halftime show. I have nothing to say about it because I didn't see it, but there's a reason why I didn't see it. We did not get back from Minnesota till about 3:20, 3:25 in the morning.
Oof.
Sunday morning. Well, it was an 8:30 game to begin with, so you knew you were going to be late. But it took an hour for us to get through the de-icing process because whatever group was supposed to de-ice our plane, their truck broke down. Okay, that happened. So we had to go to a different area, and then we had to wait in line. So, that happens. I'm just resting on the plane. Well, you don't get back until 3:20. So some of the work I wanted to get done yesterday morning, I woke up, kind of got going. I think everyone knows, I'm Catholic, so I went to Mass at 11:30, got back. So I worked on, I did 2 Penn State update shows. One you heard just about a half an hour ago. The other one for Tuesday is already done, but I did those first. Then I updated my Penn State basketball chart. Then I worked on Minnesota because I wanted to get Minnesota updated because they're playing again Thursday at 4. Okay? So it's just easiest to do it that way. Then I worked on Michigan State. Okay, boom. And I've got the golf tournament on in the background, the Waste Management Open in Phoenix, which is, with the crowd there, it's so rowdy, it's actually fun. At least to me it is. Now I get to the game, and I tune to the game about 6:15 or so, 6:15, 6:20 national anthem. And I got to halftime. Well, the one thing I couldn't do because we got back so late is I had projects due for my class today, so I spent halftime listening to the projects so I could make sure all the evaluations were ready for the students for today. So that's why I have no comment on something I didn't see because I was working at halftime, okay? So that's the explanation, okay? How come you didn't say anything about halftime? I didn't see it. I was working at halftime, trying to get listen to projects. It's part of what I do. So I just figure it was the best spot to do it. So some people, I guess, loved it. Some people didn't. I have no opinion. I didn't see it. So, because if you want, it was some of the projects I listened to for the class were actually thrilling. Not really, but that's all right. But there's some very good students in that class. Now, we're going to talk with Reginald Walker in the next half hour about the Super Bowl. So let's talk a little bit about the Sixers, the big James Harden trade. Matt Leon, sir, welcome.
Glad to be with you.
All right. So the trade was made between the Sixers and the Nets, and the Sixers lose Seth Curry. So let's get... No, just kidding. I figured we'd go with the joke. They acquire Harden. Is there any concern in Philadelphia? Let's go with a couple of concerns here about his conditioning.
I don't think, not really. Now, they did just say, I saw before I hopped on here, that he's not going to play until after the All-Star break. So if there are concerns because he hasn't played in a while with the hamstring, they can get him up to speed. Now, right now, we are in the unmitigated joy of adding James Harden. And I get it. I mean, this has been a long time in the making. You're pairing a Hall of Famer with Joel Embiid having one of the best NBA seasons we've ever seen. It's exciting. And I think, people right now are just want to see the two working together. I don't think there's, at this point, much concern about conditioning or anything like that. Now, once he gets out there, we see what, if there is an issue. But right now, I just think it's unmitigated joy.
Yeah, no, I understand that part of it. It's just, he got himself out of Houston. He didn't get himself, and wasn't in great condition when he left. I haven't felt like he's been in good shape since, to be honest with you. And that's why I asked the question. Next issue. Obviously, we've got to see how they play together. But we all know James Harden has been a ball-centric player during the course of his career. So what's your gauge? I mean, is sometimes a guy will, let's go way back in the time machine. Oscar Robertson was a ball-centric guy who, when he got paired with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, figured out, this is my ticket to finally getting a ring. What about Harden?
I would hope it would be the same track. That, I think, is the main challenge here, is getting a guy who needs the ball in his hands, who's used to having the ball in his hands and basically dictating what they do offensively. But now you've got a guy in Joel Embiid that obviously has been a transformative talent and is very likely the MVP of the NBA this season. So I do think that is the main challenge, and that's the main thing I'm looking for. How does that dynamic play out? To your point about Oscar Roberts, I would hope everybody sees that there is a chance here to do something special and bend their game to do that. I have no concerns, honestly, about Embiid doing it.
Right.
We'll wait and see about Harden. The word is this is where he wants to be. I've read stuff that he wanted to come here. He didn't want to go to Brooklyn in the first place. Now a lot of that is smokescreen stuff put out by agents to facilitate things or whatever. If it is true and this is where he wants to be and he really wants to win a ring, it's a pretty simple equation. It might be a little awkward at first as everybody kind of feels each other out, but eventually you would hope they find their pace. And, I'm interested to see them on the floor. I'm interested in seeing them pick and roll together. There's a lot of things. This should be a lot of fun.
And they didn't have to give up Maxey. They didn't have to give up Thibault along the way. Shake Milton has stepped in and played some valuable minutes. It seems like, except for Simmons, and Seth Curry helped. Seth Curry's the kind of guy that goes in, like the night's over, he's got 14. Okay, that really helped. Mm-hmm. But they didn't really give up the core group to do it.
No, and that's the thing, I think you got to applaud Daryl Morey for is, they gave up 2 first-round picks. Well, I think one is either this year or next year. I think there's something in there that Brooklyn can push it to next year if they don't I think even worst-case scenario, the Sixers pick this year is going to be 24, 25, 26. And there's no reason to think it wouldn't be the same next year. So that's a first-round pick. And, the NBA drafts get past the first 10, and it really kind of falls off a cliff. And then the next one's in 2027, I believe, if something, I don't want to say who cares, but we'll be living in a different world then, and we'll deal with that when we deal with that. You know, I mean, like you said, Seth Curry, good player. Because Seth Curry, you know, helped them win a lot of games here.
He will help the Nets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But you got to get the give. And I kind of look at this like Ben Simmons was not going to play here.
Exactly.
And so I almost look like you got Harden for Curry, Drummond, and a couple of picks. Because while Simmons is the headline, it's kind of the way I look at it is he's only going to play for Brooklyn. He was not going to play here. So in a way, you kind of didn't lose him because he wasn't participating at all. So, you know, I think they did a great job. And you mentioned, you know, and people, you know, this is Philadelphia, so there are going to be people that are going to find the gray cloud in front of the silver lining, worried about losing first-round picks and worried about the future. And number one, I say, you've been worried about the future for a decade here. It's time to win.
Oh.
And number two, if you're worried about the future, you know, you still have Maxey Thybulle. Like, you have serious pieces that are going to be a core part of this for a long time. So, no, I don't know that you could have done the deal any better. I really don't.
Do you worry about draft picks in the NBA? I mean, come on.
There's a subset of fans that it's just kind of always perpetually looking ahead.
You know,
and it's the same in the NFL, too.
I know.
People always are so worried about, what this draft, instead of kind of focusing on the reason you do all this is to get the points like this, where you put all the chips in and you go for it.
Look, I've said this so many times. Every time that you're spending every day looking to the future, that means you have no present. Well,
no,
you know
absolutely.
what? Enjoy your present, because guess what? Okay? Yesterday, the Rams won the Super Bowl, right? It's the first time the Los Angeles Rams have done it. They did it as the St. Louis Rams, and the only other Los Angeles team to win was the Raiders, right, when they were in L.A. and won over Washington. But okay, that's how rare it is. A team wins. When you've got a shot, take it. Go for it.
And you've got a big man playing at a level that I don't know that we've seen in our lifetimes at that position, in that style. And you're adding a Hall of Famer. Like, if you're not going to enjoy this now, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is when you just kind of kick back and get excited every night when there's a game and you start looking at playoff matchups, and, you know, this is what it's all about. This is why you go have draft parties. You know, you convince yourself of this young player could work out that. It's for right now. You know, this is where it all should come together.
Well, and this is where Embiid, in the world of analytics, to me, Embiid is the perfect analytics center. Because he will step out. He has a beautiful outside shot, which I never expected when he came out of college. I never expected that. And, you know, he does, you know, inside, outside. He is the modern era center that everybody begs for and only Philadelphia has.
Yeah, no, and you know, I was texting a friend the other day when they were playing. I forget if it was the Cleveland game or the one before it. But there was a play where Embiid got the defensive rebound, brings it up the floor, Euro steps between two defenders, reverse layup, and he gets fouled. And I just texted my friend, I'm like, do you realize the level of basketball that we're just kind of getting accustomed to and taking for granted? Like, how absurd it is what he just did.
Right.
You know, and not for nothing, he's also a phenomenal foul shooter. And that is a low-key thing of this with him and Harden. This is a team that's going to live at the foul line. They are going to get to the line a ton, and they're going to make their free throws, and that can be such a weapon night in, night out in the NBA.
I mean, no offense, when he was at Kansas, I didn't see this. I thought he'd be really good 15 feet and in. Mm-hmm. But the other elements of his game where obviously he's worked, I mean, he didn't do that at Kansas. He wasn't a three-point shooter at Kansas. He wasn't bringing the ball up the floor at Kansas or running a break.
No, I mean, he is. This is like, I think if you sat around and looked at the physical tools in Embiid and you projected out I still don't think, even the best-case scenario, you know, pie in the sky, what could this kid become? I still think he's above what that would have been.
He's only 27.
Yeah.
He's only 27 years old. That's what makes this entire deal phenomenal. And I remember when they drafted him. Now, I did make a big deal about them. I knew he was hurt, but I did make a big deal out of them drafting him. I said, look, this guy was exactly the guy they needed to draft because it was like the 3rd overall pick. He wasn't even first or second. So I made a big deal about when they said, look, this guy is the cornerstone they're aching for. But then you had to wait 2 years, and that was the problem. You had to wait.
Yeah, and that, one of the reasons.
By the way, I just looked up his numbers at Kansas. You know how many 3-pointers he took his one season at Kansas?
2?
5.
5, yeah.
You were close, man. He was 1 of 5.
And think about, like, those first two, when he got hurt, remember they drafted Jahlil Okafor because I think there was concern after Embiid got hurt again that, well, we've got this opportunity to take another big who's talented and we can hedge our bets in case something happens with Embiid.
Okafor could guard you.
No, absolutely. And you kind of look.
He had no interest in playing defense.
But he isn't the pick if Embiid doesn't miss that second year.
That's true.
And it just, it kind of the ripple effects, I think, from that are tremendous when you kind of look at all the things. Because in my opinion, that's when Sam Hinkie's tenure got off track because people looked at the Okafor pick and it looked like a panic pick, and people, I think the front office started to get antsy and what's going on here.
He picked the Washington kid, though, too, right? The Falk, whatever. He picked that kid first overall, too, didn't he?
No, that was Colangelo.
Colangelo made that pick. Oh,
yes. Made that trade and made that pick. And that's another one. I'm not a Colangelo fan.
Right.
It was I don't know what happened to this point.
I couldn't believe it because I'm sitting there thinking the Celtics need to take Tatum. They got to take Tatum. Because they had the first pick. Mm-hmm. They need to take Tatum. Then they made the trade. I said, there's going to be something there where they think they're going to take Tatum. Right? And they picked the guy. As soon as they picked him, I went, the Celtics are going to get Tatum. I said, that's it. The other kid, who was the first overall pick in the draft, now you watch these guys will play some games, and you're like, I don't get it. What am I missing here? And it turns out I was missing nothing. I had it right.
But I will say, like, the idea that Markelle Fultz would forget how to shoot.
Yeah, Markelle Fultz. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's on anybody's radar. Like, it wasn't even that he washed out. It was like another in a long line of bizarre, only in Philadelphia type stories where a kid who made his living from the perimeter suddenly lost the physical ability and the muscle memory how to shoot the ball. And, they've been trying to find what they thought Fultz would be for years, and they may have finally done it with a Hall of Famer in James Harden.
There you go. He is the new Markelle Fultz.
There you go. That's how they'll market it, I'm sure.
I'm sure they got billboards up. Hey.
They had welcome to Philadelphia.
Did they really?
Driving into a game, and they already had stuff on 95 and everything.
Oh, that's good. I like it. Hey, let's say this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's got a chance to be fun. It's going to be interesting, especially if Brooklyn plays. I mean, just give me – if Brooklyn plays the Sixers in the playoffs, does Simmons play the games in Philadelphia?
I mean, I think you have to. Like, you can't be just blatantly that scared of a fan base, right? Like, I mean, you can't come back from that.
Are you sure?
Given this and the information that Ben's, one of the most amazing things of this whole odyssey with Ben Simmons is just how bad the information he's been getting or the advice he's been getting from people around him.
Right. And
every move that camp made, I thought was the worst move until the next thing they did. Like, I couldn't see the rationale. Even if they absolutely wanted out, some of the stuff they said just didn't make sense. Like there was one, I forget which article it was. It might have been the Ramona Shelburne piece, but talked about how Ben Simmons acknowledged that he ignored Doc Rivers' calls and texts all summer, but then was upset that Doc Rivers didn't just show up at the gym he was working at. Like, I know I've, treated you like I don't care. But you should still be falling all over yourself for me. But I think that kind of maybe shows the deep, how out of the mainstream his thinking is. And I remember, and you probably remember too, there were whispers when we were coming out of LSU that, winning's not necessarily the most important thing to him, doesn't handle criticism. Like, you kind of poo-pooed him because you love the talent and you were looking at but now whoever put those scouting reports together has to feel awfully validated because it's absolutely true.
Thank you, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Well, that's Matt Leon. The suit, I guess, went to work today in a monobob. Back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Open 7 till 4, Monday through Friday. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday, Saturday, 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
For nearly 100 years, Purdy Insurance has been your locally owned, family-operated source for insurance products. With a staff of over 20 and partnerships with some of the industry's most trusted companies, Purdy has the experience and resources to get the job done. Whether you need personal, home, and auto, or complex business insurance solutions, Purdy will help you navigate through the process. Call today at 570-286-5855. Or better yet, stop in their Sunbury office to see what Purdy Insurance can do for you.